Hello. It's been a while. I am super tired, but I'm super happy to do this video. Um, where to begin? So I think first we have Sun and Mercury both in Capricorn. Of course, Mercury is retrograde. It will be for another 10 days. We have a particularly great opportunity here, just like with every energy, and like with every energy also we have a challenge here as well. I think the challenge here is to focus too much on the negative, to focus on what isn't quite working yet, what isn't quite clicking. We are all having to be patient at this time, not only because Mercury being retrograde, but also Mars being retrograde. It's like we talked about near the end of last year. It's funny because it's a new year, right? It's very exciting, new beginning, like every January 1st. And yet, we have Mercury and Mars retrograde. So really we're looking at February being kind of new beginnings in a definitive way. I mean, it is a time of new beginnings, and that's the great gift of this time, is looking at our goals and figuring out, okay, how do we reach them? But it can feel very much like you're kind of treading in water. You're trying to run. It's like, that's normal. That's normal. And the key here is just to be patient with this. And that's kind of the best way to deal with the challenge too, because what is to be cynical but to feel like, oh, the current challenges are going to exist for forever, right? Getting lost in the negative side of life, where if we just are pragmatic and realistic of like, okay, things aren't quite clicking now. There's this delay, there's that delay. I don't have that yet. I need to do that before I can do that or achieve that or obtain that or whatever. If we just look at things quite grounded, then awesome. We can just be patient and ride the wave and just keep grinding each day. There is a major focus for all of us for the next 2 weeks of continuing forward with professional ambitions. So I think this is a really good opportunity for you to ask yourself, okay, what do I want to accomplish professionally, especially, but with life in general, but professionally, and I think physically, because it's earth energy that we're dealing with here, is going to be the main focal points here. So if we just keep that in mind, I think we'll get through this time period very easily. And I just want to say one last thing. It's so easy at this time to give in to negative thinking and to have a blind spot here because Sun and Mercury are conjunct. So we just feel like, again, we just get caught in the negative swampiness of, oh, this isn't possible, it'll never be possible. Calm down. The mind can be very negative at this time period. But again, if we just align ourselves with time and just go with the flow and make the best, I think this is the best way to put it, make the best of the current situation, then I think that we'll all find by the end of January, we've actually made a lot more progress than we thought we were. And we've at the very least set ourselves up wonderfully for February and March too. February is kind of the tipping point where things are moving forward definitively, but March is when we're really moving forward. So keep that in mind. March is kind of like the new year in certain ways. Even just the beginning of March and early March, not necessarily even later March when the spring equinox happens, where it's the beginning of a new year for all of us in a major way. But I think why this is also important to keep in mind is, yeah, with the energies that are out there, but also because Jupiter is in Aries and has been for not a long period of time now. I think it's been 2 or 3 weeks, maybe. Yeah, maybe like 3 weeks, something like that. And that energy, like I was saying about the sun going into Aries at the spring equinox and starting a new beginning, whenever an energy enters Aries, that region of space known as Aries, it's the new beginning. And Jupiter there is the beginning of the next 12 years, like we've been talking about. So that energy is all about like dynamic now. And then we have the retrograde. So if we just keep that in mind of just like, okay, feel the spirit of it. Like, yeah, cool. Yeah, positive, optimistic, positive vibration, man. Like, okay, cool. But then logically, common sense, like, okay, but what do we need to solve? What puzzles do we need to solve? Problems do we need to resolve? What do we need to do to be able to make that inspired vision a reality? If we just keep that, it basically is the MO for the rest of the month, especially the next 2 weeks. That's going to serve us really, really lovely. And I think one last thing is Mars. Again, we talked about this before, but we didn't go into detail. Mars is retrograde in Gemini. So we want to be very careful. We want to be very, very, very careful with our speech, especially with the Capricorn, because we can get down on ourselves and then we're just throwing out words like they don't matter, and words always matter. Whether it's words that we're speaking to ourselves in our minds, or I guess mumbling out loud or something, but or words that we are speaking to other people. It is so easy at this time to just get down, be negative, and then throw out a dagger, and then it's like, oh shit, that actually really hurt their feelings, or that really made it more difficult for me to communicate with this person, or whatever. In general, Mars Gemini has to be very mindful of that, and with Mars retrograde there, we're all feeling this. This is another good thing that's good to keep in mind, is we all are in this kind of delayed time period. It doesn't matter how much is going right, how much is working. We're all dealing with some kind of patience, like some kind of need for patience. And I would love to know, as always, I love, let me finish that thought first. I would love to know what it is that you're experiencing, and feel free, please, to put it in the comments. I love with these trends of videos when people put comments, and especially when somebody says, oh, I'm going through this tough thing, and somebody else gives a message of support and enthusiasm and encouragement. It's really cool, and there's interrelating, and it's great. So I think this is a really good time to let's just vent here. Let's get it out here so we don't carry it around in our minds and then spill out with negative words later. I think for me, the big, I think the frustrating thing for me at this time, that it just feels like there's so much delay, is there's so much music equipment I need to buy, and honestly, things are actually going pretty well to be able to afford it, but it's just like so many thousands of dollars, and it's so worth it, and it's all good, and that's really good to keep in mind, is the long-term importance of these things and our goals and how important they are. And when we do get there, it's going to feel so good, and then we can kind of settle into the present moment and feel good now, knowing that we're on our way there. We've defined the goals, we've figured out a rough timetable at least, and we're just doing our best. That's all we can do in life, during any time, but especially during a time like this. So that's what I'm frustrated with. I'm also trying to figure out, I'm not trying to go on and on about myself, but I'm also figuring out, I realize that I have celiac disease, hence why it's so hard for me to put on weight, hence why all kinds of things I've been struggling with for the last several years. So that's been wonderful to realize, because I've now had a month gluten-free and I feel amazing, like ridiculously better. But I also am like trying to balance, like, oh shit, I'm protein deficient, like the last couple of days, protein deficient, I've had major headaches, so I'm trying to figure that out too. But anyways, that's my venting over. Please use this comment section to vent, whether you want to talk to someone else or not. It is yours to vent always, and or yours to talk about what's going good and what's going right. That's always more than welcome to. One last thing. So Moon is in Leo for today, for tomorrow, even the first part of Tuesday. Basically, that's giving a lot of positivity. We are out of the full moon time period, waning gibbous time period for the lunar phase. And that's giving, just some optimism, but I think the patience thing is coming up again. We want to make sure we're patient. We want to make sure, that goes back to what I was saying. I didn't quite finish that thought. We really need to be mindful that everybody has been struggling with Mars retrograde in some way. It's going to be different, of course, for each one of us, but everybody in some way has had to deal with focusing more on the past and figuring things out and getting details together they didn't necessarily think they were going to have to, et cetera, et cetera. And there may be some confusion, maybe some verbal confusion, communication confusion. There's all ways that there's so many ways that this could manifest. But overall, everybody's dealing with something that's been frustrating. Since, I'm trying to remember when Mars went retrograde. I think early November. Yeah, that seems right. November 4th, I want to say. So for the last 2 months, we're all kind of at this time period of this retrograde. It's nearing its end, like in, I think, just over a week. I want to say it's the 16th of January. It goes direct. But we're all kind of in the long haul of the next maybe month and a half or so of just, okay, we're not quite there yet. So March is really good to look forward to. There's a lot of good stuff, but we need to get the foundation set now. It's really important because we are in the Capricorn, the cardinal. Every season begins with a cardinal energy, and that sets the tone. It sets the foundation, the precedent for what is going to be developed over the next in this case, 2.5 months. So we need to make sure we're being gentle with ourselves, but we are like actually pushing forward too. It's important. And last but not least, Venus has gone into Aquarius. This is giving a lot of lightness to some of those more challenging energies that we're dealing with right now. And basically, I think for the next couple of days, there's this opportunity to make the most of that, and the moon in Leo, which is basically friendship. Venus in Aquarius is all about friendship, connecting with other people, being a little bit more social, but not necessarily in a Venus and Gemini kind of way where you're just like kind of open and talk to whoever. It's more like, I mean, there's an open and friendliness about this energy, but it's more like, okay, let me hang out with my best friend a lot, or let me hang out with like-minded people a lot. And just relating in a really special way, in a really humanitarian way, just appreciating the humanity of each person and seeing them for the individual they are, and feeling seen if the other person is aware of themselves and empathetic and whatnot. That's a really beautiful gift at this time, and that'll be going on for the next like week and a half or so, something like that. And again, I think for the next couple of days, with Moon and Leo, that's adding a lot of fun to that mix. So having fun with friends is definitely on the schedule for the next couple of days for all of us, or it should be anyways. As always, I'm doing readings. Info in the description to book a reading with me. Love doing readings. I've been doing them for over 10 years. Yada, yada, yada. Yeah. Infinite love to you, my friends. Namaste.